It's time for the Douglas Coleman Show. Mr. Smooth and Savvy is joined by guests from all walks of life, from the entertainment industry to authors to political and social commentators, the famous and not so famous, the controversial and the light and fluffy. We have it all. Now, here's Douglas Coleman.
Howdy-howdy-o, hey. Welcome to the Douglas Coleman Show. It's me, Douglas Coleman. How are you? We've got two guests for your listening pleasure today. Our first guest is Eric Morris. Eric is a teacher who has been teaching acting around the world for over 50 years. He's also an author. He's written many books. No Acting Please, Being and Doing, Irreverent Acting, Acting, Imaging, and the Unconscious, amongst many other books. And his new book is called A Second Chance at Life, which is a therapeutic tool type self-help book, which actors can use, and anybody can use, actually. He tells us all about that in the interview. He's followed by James Ventry. James is a former professional boxer who is now an author and also a filmmaker. He is the co-owner of a studio called White Lion Studio, and they've done several motion pictures. Attack of the Killer Shrews is one that I happen to like. He's also got a book out called The Hypocrisy of America, which is available on Amazon. If you're an indie musician and you want to have your track featured on our show for a month, please check out our complete radio promotional package. Just go to douglascolemanmusic.com/CRPP for complete details. It's a great deal. Your track will air 28 times a week for 1 month. Plus, you will get a 15-minute interview on our show. And we will also feature your profile on our website. And that will stay up permanently, even after your month is finished. So check it out, douglascolemanmusic.com/CRPP. We will be right back with Eric Morris. Okay, please welcome to the Douglas Coleman Show, Eric Morris. Hi, Eric. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Very well. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. Where do I start with you? Let's see. You are an acting teacher now. You're an author.
Yes, I'm also an actor. I've been an actor since, I guess I started studying in 1950, and I've been an actor ever since.
1950.
And I've been teaching since 1960.
Okay. You know, to be honest, in your pictures, you don't look that old. But
well, they're recent pictures, so they're not a lie, really. You know.
Well, you look very good, I must say.
Well, I'm a vegetarian, and I take care of myself. I work out. I take vitamins. I don't take drugs, and I don't drink. So, I mean, it's a winning combination, I think. You know, if I don't get hit by a bus, I'll be okay.
You'll be just fine. Yeah, exactly. All right. Why don't you just tell us a little about what you did as an actor? I assume you did that before you were teaching, correct? Or did you teach?
Yeah. Well, I also did it while I was teaching too, for many years. I've only stopped really pursuing my acting career in the last 10 years, really. So, well, I started out as a stage actor. I was trained at Northwestern University Theater. I got a degree, a bachelor's degree in theater, and I studied acting in various places with a number of people. And mostly I started in theater. I did 3 seasons of Summer Stock, 2 of which I did while I was at Northwestern. I did about 50 equity plays before I even left Chicago area and to go to Hollywood. You know, I decided that I wanted to be a film actor after doing around 50 plays, professional plays. And I came to Los Angeles, and I went into the Army. I was drafted. And in the Army, I was lucky enough to become a radio announcer and disc jockey at the hospital radio station. And so I spent most of my time being a radio announcer and disc jockey in the Army, except for the first 9 months I was in supply. I was a supply clerk at a infantry basic training company. But anyway, when I got out of the service, I started my career in Hollywood, and I started working. Overall, I've done about 25 films I've been in. I shouldn't say I've done. I've had various small parts, medium parts, big parts, in about 25 films and about 50 television shows. And I was on 2 series. One was a syndicated series called Eyewitness to the Past. The other one was a network show, the new Phil Silvers show. I had a running part on that for a very short period of time. And so I did a lot of acting, in my career. And finally, I decided that it was time not to go running around and auditioning and everything. So I concentrated on writing my books. I've written 9, and pursuing just teaching. So I teach 3 classes each week, and I do writing. I have my next book planned, outlined, so I'm trying to promote this one, Second Chance at Life, which is not an acting book, actually. It's for actors, but it's for everybody else in the world, so it's for everybody. And it really is a second chance at life. It really opens the doors to dealing with getting rid of the damage in your life, getting in touch with who you really are, dealing with unsaid things, finding closure with people that you wish you had spoken to before. Some of them are now gone, but doing imaginary monologues to them, telling them how you feel or felt about them takes the monkey off your back. So there are a lot of sections in the book that really relate to how to deal with your demons and get rid of the damage that you've experienced and go forward and have a happy life. I think having a happy life is the goal, People who are out there who are not happy.
I agree.
And in some cases, they don't even know why they're not happy. I think this book is probably, if not the most important book that I've ever written. I think it's one of them for sure.
How does it relate to acting, though? How would an actor use that?
Well, actually, it all came out of my... let me roll back the tape for just a second. I teach a system based on Stanislavski. I was influenced by Lee Strasberg. It's a method approach. However, as I started teaching, I started creating and innovating additional techniques to the basic foundation of the Stanislavski system, and I've gone, light years beyond the original precepts of the method, and I've created my own particular system of acting, and out of the creation of that, working with people to liberate them from their obstacles, fears, and tension, and insecurities, and dependencies, and superstition, and religious blocks, and all of that. I created around 300 or 400 exercises to liberate people from the problems that kept them from being free to act, free to live and free to act. Well, those techniques that evolved out of that 60 years of teaching actually work for people because there's no separation between living and acting. So I took these techniques and wrote a book for the people in the world, for everybody, not just for actors. So it's not a limited area, a limited hemisphere of people. This is for everybody. And the techniques work for actors, they work for people, but they're all instrumental therapy techniques that liberate the person so that they can be free only to act, not only to act, but free to enjoy life, free to be expressive, free to be impressively affectable, and free to express how they feel. And then, of course, eliminate their demons, the damages that they've suffered growing up in our society. I have techniques that really work. But, this is not just a theoretical thing on my part. I've been using this technique on myself, I've been using this technique on other people, on my actors, other people who I know, and it actually works. It's not a theoretical ideas about what you can do to help yourself. These techniques actually work. They've worked on me. I've had breakthroughs. I had an epiphany about 6 years ago, dealing with my self-image. I realized that I wasn't really functioning in a totally true self-image, and I got in touch with challenging that image and dealing with the objectivity of my life beyond that image, and the objectivity of what I've accomplished, who I am, how I feel, how I relate to the world, my accomplishments, etc. And my self-image underwent complete reconstruction. And instead of living in a limited self-image, I expanded that self-image to where I really discovered who I really am instead of who I thought I was, you know. Everybody in the world is living with a self-image, but most of those people, I'd say a very big percentage of people, get comfortable with that self-image. They say, well, somebody says to you, well, you're very stubborn. Says, yeah, I'm stubborn. And you embrace that because you have become accustomed to the self-image you've lived with. But that self-image might be a false or limited self-image. And a part in my book that deals with retrospective objectivity is a way to challenge and update that self-image by objectifying everything that goes beyond the way you feel about yourself in discovering what you've done, how you've related to the world, people you've affected, and how you've grown and what your contributions have been that you have not really embraced. So that self-image expands and you become aware of who you really are instead of who you thought you really were. So there's some things in the book that are life-changing techniques. I mean, it sounds a little egocentric and a little megalomaniacal, but it's really not. You know, the one thing I can say is if somebody says or talks the truth about themselves, there's nothing egocentric about that if it's true. And this stuff is true. It works. I have the proof that it works personally as well as with other people. I've talked a lot. Do you want to say anything, Doug?
When you're finished, you're making my job real easy. I just have to sit and listen.
Okay. Well, anyway, there are four sections in the book. The first section is dealing with identifying damaging experiences, going back and changing the ingredients and the outcome of that experience repetitiously. You can do it verbally. You can do it as an inner monologue, or you can use the imaging technique. I wrote a whole book about imaging, acting, and the unconscious. So what you do is you're actually reprogramming your unconscious memory banks, and you're changing your relationship to that very damaging experience, which elevates itself into your life and makes you unhappy and gets in the way of your progress, gets in the way of your contributions in life. So that's the first part of the book, actually repairing the damage, and you can do it verbally or imaging-wise. The second part, as I already spoke about, is retrospective objectivity, getting in touch with what your real self-image is, how you talk about yourself, how you see yourself, and how other people see you. And you question people. What do you think of me? How do you see me in the world? Your family, friends, etc., so that you can get a pretty good idea of what your self-image is before you start to objectify it and challenge it and expand it. And the third part is called second chance encounters. Now, everybody in the world wishes they would have said something to somebody at a time when they didn't. People who are not in your life anymore, who are deceased and they're gone. And these unfinished things with people in your life are haunting. They haunt you. They're incomplete. They're the lack of closure. And they bother you. They sneak up on you in your dreams. Oh, I wish I had told my father how much he meant to me. I wish I had. I said to some of the teachers that I've had how much I appreciated them. I took it for granted. I've had relationships with people that I was insensitive. I have to talk to them and tell them how I feel. And by doing this, second chance encounters, you eliminate that from being an unfinished thing in your life that haunts you in some way. And then the fourth part of the book deals with subpersonalities, which is a whole important area of dealing with the various subparts of who we are. parts of our personality, and that gets a little complicated to talk about because it's very specific. But actually, it's identifying parts of yourself that are in the driver's seat of your life and running your life, and oftentimes ruining your life, and the techniques of developing an aware ego and awareness to move those subparts of your life out of the driver's seat so that other parts of you can get into running your life, and you can move in and out of the subpersonalities, the parts of you that function on various levels, So it also reminds you in that section of your dreams. I have a section on dreams and how to understand subpersonalities appearing in your dreams, asking for redemption, so to speak. Recognize me. Listen, I'm here. Don't turn your back on me, etc. So subpersonalities is a real thing. It's many psychologists in the world spend their whole career doing subpersonality work, voice dialogue work, etc. I was exposed to it through two therapists, psychologists Hal and Sidra Stone, 35 years ago, 1975, and I've been using subpersonalities in my work with actors and in this book, for people. So essentially, that's my story. I teach 3 classes a week with actors, and I'm still going strong in that respect. My wife teaches. She works with people all over the world on Skype. She works mostly with professional working actors on series and in movies. Her name is Susanna Morris, and she's brilliant. And so the two of us have a really great relationship in the area of contributing creatively. I guess that's my story.
Okay. Well, I've been jotting down notes while you were talking, so I've got certainly lots of things to come back at you with. But since we're on the topic of actors, I did want to ask you this, because I've always been curious about it. I studied acting years ago in New York, and I dropped out in favor of being a musician. But I went to the American Academy of Dramatic Art and studied for a while, had a blast. I really enjoyed it. But one of the things I was always curious about, and I'm going to make a comparison between musicians and actors. When you see a singer, when you hear a singer, and I'll just use a couple of examples like Ella Fitzgerald or Aretha Franklin, somebody like that is just born with that incredible voice. They took no singing lessons. They just had it in their DNA. So what I'm always curious about is if you have a room full of people and everybody gets up and does a monologue or does some activity, is there such a thing as a natural born actor? Is there such a thing as somebody is born with a certain skill set that here they are, as opposed to...
Well, yeah, they are referred to as naturals. They're rare. It's rare. I once said something, I got a laugh from it. I could walk down Hollywood Boulevard and pick 19 people off the street, just surreptitiously, and I could make actors out of 16 of them, because everybody has some kind of intuitive talent, a sense of reality, a sense of truth, an imagination. Everybody has something. The level of that something varies with each person. Some people are very endowed and very gifted, but I have found in my teaching that a lot of the most gifted people are the most obstacled people too, because their gift is a liability as well as an asset. The more sensitive you are and the more affectable you are, the more impacted you are on the things that get in the way of your freedom. They make you protective, etc. So when I was at the Actor Studio, I was at the Actor Studio with Lee Strasberg for about the Actor Studio West in Los Angeles for about 7 or 8 years, and I found that the most talented actors were the people who seemed to have the most problems, the most obstacles to their freedom to act. And that's how my system evolved in terms of instrumental work, liberating the actor. But yeah, there are people who are born with a certain natural thing that they have, and they're gifted. And you'll find a natural among maybe 100,000 people. A true natural. So it's rare. But once you discover a person's talent, then the development of the talent is really the challenge. Talent is, I'm going to say this on the radio. Talent is as common as horse manure in a busy stable. It is really common. Everybody has some kind of talent. What is rare is the development, the freedom to access that talent and express it, and the ability craftually to use that talent to fulfill dramatic material. So the talent is kind of a gift, or natural gift, whatever, but the development and the use of that talent is rare. That's what separates the artist and the real gifted actor on the stage or on the screen from the actor who is not trained. Training is everything. I'm 87 years old and I'm still in training. I see a psychiatrist every Friday at 11 o'clock, which I'm missing today for the radio broadcast. And I'm still working on myself, and I'm still in training. I'm still reaching. I'm staying hungry, and I keep reaching, And I try desperately never to get self-impressed, because the minute you start resting on your laurels and getting self-impressed, it's over. It stops. You hit the wall. So those are my mantras. But to answer your question, yes, there are people who are born gifted, but it's rare.
So what exactly is it that you can spot? Because like I said, making the comparison with a singer, it's obvious when somebody like that sings and you just go, oh my God, the angels are crying. But
okay, I'll give you an example. A person comes into my class. They're new. They're brand new. They've had no background, no training. And they start working. I start doing instrumental liberating exercises with them, and they start to bring in monologues from plays, from films, etc. Immediately, I can tell where the actor's instincts are. Some people have wonderful instincts. They're instinctual. They understand the material. They can relate to the material psychologically, emotionally, on every level, and they have an inborn sense of truth. They have a sense of reality, a sense of truth. Now, I can spot that right away. And so that's a developable thing. Now, the people who are most blocked, who are protective, who don't have not exercised their imagination or their impressive ability to be affected by external or internal stimuli, those people have to be worked in instrumental areas to elevate their openness, their willingness to be affected by external stimulus, internal stimulus, etc. And at the same time, you see, a person has blocks in either one or two areas. The impressive area, they are closed off to being affectable, or the expressive area. They are very impressively affectable, but they are cut off expressively. They can't express it for fear of social obligation, fear of judgment, fear of consequence, etc. So when I work with an actor, I spot which of the areas that we have to mostly concentrate on. Is it the impressive area? They are cut off from their being able to be affected by external stimulus, internal stimulus, or are they really very overly sensitive, and by the overly sensitivity that they have, they are afraid to express it because of fear, social obligation, social fear, turn the other cheek, conditioning, etc. So some people, of course, have obstacles in both areas, and I have to deal with that instrumentally to liberate them and remove the obstacles in both areas. Then we deal with the craft, identifying the obligations of material, selecting choices, And I've created most of 31 choice approaches, how to create a choice to fulfill an obligation to a piece of material. There's 7 major obligations related to material, and we deal with them one at a time depending on the material. I've said 60 years worth of work in a paragraph.
Well, there you go. All right, we've got time for one more point, and then we're going to have
please,
to
ask me anything, Doug.
Okay, well, this is, again, I'm just taking notes from what you've been talking about. You had mentioned self-image. Now, trying to judge oneself is pretty difficult because I think we come at it from a very subjective nature.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And that subjective place is what limits us.
Right.
In terms of our image. So, you're absolutely right.
On the flip side of that, are other people necessarily a better judge of you than you are? Because they're also coming from a subjective place.
Well, but they're more objective than we are. Somebody outside of myself is more objective about me from a third person place, But I think it's a combination of all. Your own subjective identification and the objectivity of the close friends, family, etc. But of course, they're going to have a subjective take on you too. So you actually try to get everything you can get from what they give you. Now, it's also dependent not only on the way you see yourself, what other people say to you in terms of identifying your self-image. It's also related to your actions, becoming cognizant of your actions and your behavior, because your actions and your behavior manifest your self-image. So if you become increasingly aware of, I do this, or I do that. Why do I do this? I have a habit of doing that. If you become aware of your actions and the way you relate interpersonally with people socially, and you become much more observational and much more objective about it, that will also expand and elevate your knowledge of your self-image. But you see, here's the rub. The rub is that most people will read the book and they'll say, that's interesting. And they won't do the work. And if they won't do the work, they might as well not have read the book. It's a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly process of working on yourself. I was in therapy a long time ago, and my therapist said most people take better care of their lawns than they do of their relationships. And that's true. People are inherently lazy, unfortunately, or they're fearful, and that breeds laziness. But you're absolutely right. People are going to tell you things about yourself that are mixed with objectivity and subjectivity, and you have to kind of select things that you can use to expand your self-image and to elevate it. But most of all, we don't really take a lot of time to go over our lives and how we've affected other people, touched other people, what our accomplishments have been, what contributions we've made to the planet, to other people. And when we do that, that expands our self-image and our awareness and our consciousness. So it's an ongoing thing. It's something you do every day. I'm an actor 24 hours every day, 31 days a month, and 12 months every year. I'm an actor every day of my life. I'm a person every day of my life, and I work on it.
I think life would be much easier for everybody if one's self-image came from the perspective of your dog, and that's where you took it from.
Okay. That's a good one. I'm going to include that in my next book.
Oh, please do.
Okay, Fido, what do you think?
Because
I think it's great. It's great. That's great. It makes me laugh. No, it's good.
It's
the dog
true,
has no prejudice,
Absolutely none. As long as you feed it, as long as you pet it, as long as you take care of that dog.
That's right.
That dog will love you for the rest of its life. It doesn't care what you wear, how fat you are, what your hair looks like.
What a brilliant statement that is. I'm going to use it. I'm going to mention it in my class.
Oh, please do.
I think that's great, Doug.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. We do have to wrap it up, unfortunately.
I enjoyed this interview,
Well, it was a pleasure talking to you, and maybe you can come back and we can continue it, but we got to kind of wrap this up.
I would love to come back.
Okay.
I'm sure you have more questions.
Yeah, we could go on for another half an hour, but unfortunately,
you don't have the time, and that's okay.
So let's just mention your new book. It's called A Second Chance at Life. It's out now.
Repairing Life's Damage. Repairing Life's Damage.
Okay, is it
Subtitle.
out and available now?
It's out and available. You get it very quickly on Amazon.com, and it's in a variety of bookstores all over the country. So hopefully people will pick it up and use it. Use it, you know?
And do you have a website you want to
ericmorris.com. It's very simple. ericmorris.com. All 9 of my books are listed on that, and my classes and everything they want to know about me is on there. And ericmorris.com. Thank you for asking me that.
Well, you're very welcome, and thank you so much for coming on the show. This was a lot of fun, very informative to hear what you had to say. Best of luck with the book. I hope it does well. How long's it been out?
About 2 months.
Oh, okay. Is it selling well?
Yeah, actually very well. I think for not in the best seller category yet, but I just want to help people. When somebody once told me you don't really make a lot of money writing books, and they were right. And I never wrote a book to make money, and I absolutely fulfill that prophecy. I don't make any money on my books, except I make enough to reprint them when they go out of print. When we sell out a title, I have enough money to reprint that book. But I never thought I would make any money on the books. I just wanted to get them out there, and that's what I've been doing.
Well, that's super. Well, again, Eric, thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
And thank you, Doug. Thank you so very much.
And we'll have you back, okay? We'll maybe
thank
in a few
you.
months.
I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, take care.